Walking Dog.
Hello. 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 Hey guys. How's it going? Well, shit. Yet I thrive. Alright. So, let's see here. What have I done? Just a quick catch up for those, to let other people show up for the actual stuff that they might be tuning in for. Let's see here. Nothing much changed medically for me or anything like that. I can now do far more push-ups than I was ever able to do. I'm still an old fat man, but I can now do that, so that's good. So the gym and just overall occasional lifting and stuff has been helpful. Let's see what else. Oh, I lost somebody there just because I mentioned being able to do some push-ups. Cope and see. Let me see here. Yeah, no stories to tell, really. My oldest daughter has been pretty sick. Took her to urgent care twice, a follow-up once. She just had a lot of... she's okay now, because she's taking antibiotics and everything, but it was like an upper respiratory that went from that to like an ear infection, but also she was starting to get a little bit of fluid in one of her lungs. So it's a good thing we put her on the antibiotics, because it could have turned into something like pneumonia, which would have been really bad. On hobbies or interests field, I recently... Tell me if the music's too loud, by the way. If the music's too loud, I'll turn it down. In the hobby department, I recently listened to the audible version of Saint Celestine, the Living Saint, Warhammer 40k book. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was really, really cool. It was a really nice book. I always thought the figure of Saint Celestine was interesting. She's essentially, well, she's like a figurehead or like a saint that a lot of the Sisters of Battle are down for, and her whole deal is that she can die and come back, and she can die and come back, but she has to go through hell every time, like almost literally, to come back each time and recover all her memories, and then get resurrected, only to fight and martyr herself once more. she's like pretty crazy powerful, but um, still, it's kind of her fate to be slain and appear at like the humanity's most terrible moments to bring a glimmer of hope and faith in the Emperor. So, but it was cool because it was through the POV of the Saint, and so you get to actually like learn about what it is that she goes through each time she's resurrected. It doesn't sound fun, but the whole thing was pretty. It was a cool read. It switches between like the POV when she gets resurrected, like that story, and into like her involvement in the fall of Cadia, which was like a big post-heresy battle that basically was a really big tragedy, really big, like a whole planet got, like a very important, strategically important, very populated planet got absolutely fucked. So, Fall of Cadia is pretty cool. I haven't read the book Fall of Cadia, but I'm going through some of the Audible stuff. Man, the Warhammer like Audibles are awesome. They seem to get specifically people that can do like theatrical sounding voices or can be theatrical. So the woman who did Saint Celestine, I think she's like a voice actress too, but did a really cool job with all the voices. Like she was doing like the demon voices or like the weird hissing voices, and then Saint Celestine and the commander. Like she was doing a pretty decent job. Commando Blaskin. But anyway, that's it. That's like my hobby stuff I'm dropping at the beginning here. There's like 12 of you here already, so let's get started. All right, welcome to Schizoid Saturday. So for those that don't know, that's usually when I ask the question sometime during the week on the Zoid Void server, and I get submissions, anonymous submissions. Anybody that submits to me will basically. I'll read what they put in there to answer the question, but I won't read their username. I could care less who the user is. I'm more interested in what they have to say. Right? So it's more about that, and the more of them I get, the better. Sometimes I get like, wow, upwards of 6 or 7. Wow. One time I got like 10. Forgot what the question was. Or like 12. It was like a crazy amount. I had to like speedrun it. Today I think I only got 4, but they're lengthy ones. So 4 big chunks. Big chunguses. So I can go through those. The question I asked, by the way, let me see here. The question I had asked for this week to the Zoids on the Zoid Void was as follows. Do you have trouble finding jobs/work that doesn't make you miserable? Do you have trouble keeping jobs or finding jobs? Well, I already asked that. Already a redundancy. I'm a terrible writer. How much does it have to do with mental health or neurodivergence? So I kind of wanted to like talk a little bit about some of the more practical things, right? I know I've had my struggles when it comes to like employment and finding employment. I've never had too much trouble with. Now, wanting to stay or being like my tolerance of the employment, that tends to dwindle like faster. Currently, my current job I'm happy with, which is like the first job I've ever been cool with. Wendy Ilocino, thank you. I haven't done anything yet, but you're welcome. Unless you're just thanking the stars, thanking the universe. But not much to thank for, to be honest. The whole thing is that like I would easily have get jobs myself because I was able to mask up, be like real charismatic, put on this front of competency. Well, I'm fairly competent, but like the charisma and the friendliness was just like big old mask, but I was good at it, and so getting through the interviews were always really easy. The work itself, I've done all kinds of different things. Mostly like stuff in the retail side of the world, like whether it's management or behind the scenes or whatever. I did a lot of customer service type stuff because I was good at it, because my mask was good for sales and things like that. And but the problem was is that once I had the job, I already hated it. Like day one, I'm just like, okay. Now the challenge of finding a job is over. It's like, well, I hope this is tolerable. And usually the novelty, being my ADHD ass is always seeking novelty. The novelty of learning a new skill, learning a new layout, or learning a new type of method or product or whatever, that usually kept me active and not like more like busy and miserable at my job for like at least a couple of months. But once I got like once it started becoming a little bit monotonous, or like I knew like the ebbs and flows of it, and I knew there was like no more interesting challenges or exciting things of any kind, or just problems to tackle that were new, this kind of lethargy and this like apathy would set in within like maybe the first 2 months of having the job. And then of course the mask would kind of start kind of waning, but I had to keep it up because I hadn't been there long enough. So then I would keep it up for like a good year or so. I had different ones depending on the context or situation. It was either something like the confident person that feels good, or if I wanted to put out like this energy of like, oh, I'm still learning, because I didn't want to like have to try very hard because it was just some kind of shitty job. I would put up the more bumbling, anxious fool type persona. It just depended on the. But eventually, eventually after like, I don't know, maybe like a year of working somewhere, I couldn't. The masking was just like, ugh, I couldn't do it anymore. So I always focused on increasing or developing my competency at any job, to the point where I could just kind of be apathetic after about a year, because they know I'll still do a good job. I can be like pessimistic or apathetic. So I always became that guy. Right, about a year, they'd be like, oh yeah, he's grumpy, or he's like, don't let him bother you, but he does a good job. And so that's kind of like what I would work toward. And then that was like the most comfortable I can like be, because then word would get around that like, oh, yeah, don't try to pal around with that guy. He's like kind of like he's just kind of a big Debbie Downer. I was okay with that. But initially, you can't start as a Debbie Downer because, people won't hire you. So the Debbie Downer would come out about like a year after. And once I knew my way around, knew what to do, once I became like a integral part of like the team, then I was like, okay, it's Debbie Downer time, and I would start leaking my more sincere personality a little bit more. I still wouldn't like get that close to people, though. I would, if there was people that like, once I started, going all like, Mr. the Big Sad, there was some people that sometimes were like cool with that, and when those people were cool with it, they didn't care about my kind of apathy, and just kind of like, and they had a mutual interest. Those would be like the people that I could kill a lot of time with. So it would make the day go by faster, because the monotony of it would just kill me. And so then I would just talk to them about video games and horror films and books, and science fiction, I don't know, philosophy, whatever the fuck. If I found like just a weirdo or a nerd, not necessarily someone dealing with my PD or whatever, but. And so they would be like good time passers. Unfortunately, that also sometimes made them think that like I was like developing like some close friendship with them. And I never actually felt that way, but there had been a few times where I kind of like, oh yeah, we're friends, but it's like, I don't know what that is. I don't know how that really felt. But anyway, that's a different point. So yeah, so being not miserable at a job it took a lot of work for me. I had to like work pretty hard to just like find most work I did tolerable. Because monotony just kills me. Like repetitive stuff and just over and over and over. It's just, and then it makes, because then I start just being and like thinking about the things, and then I start questioning even more and more until I get to a point where I'm just like, this is just like, I'm done. I need to get out of here. And that would be about year 3 of almost any job. I would just be at that point. I cannot be here. It didn't matter what job it was. It really did. So I would fall into this kind of complacency for a while, but after a while, it would just kind of like, yeah. I don't know how long I would have stayed. I think I would have stayed. That was the weird part, is I probably would have stayed even longer, even though I was just miserable. Because I was just like, yeah, but I don't want to go through the process. Like, all the effort required to, like, look for another job. Like, is that worth it? Like, you know, all the conflict and ugh. So I would just be miserable at work. So that was that. So that's my kind of experience with that. As far as like keeping jobs, the only reason I lost a lot of jobs is because the places I worked, I kept shutting down. They kept literally closing like the doors, and so I had to go look for another job. And I was just like, it was like a what's it called? A lucky, happy accident when that would happen. And the same process would happen. Find another job, it'd be interesting for a little while because I'm learning new things, and then it would just kind of take a downward spiral into like, I don't want to be here, I don't hate this. Even if I had like nice coworkers or a nice whatever. The only reason this job is cool is because it's remote and I'm just by myself doing my own thing on the computer work. So it's a lot easier for me, or something like that. For more than just the zoidy reasons as well. Okay, so that was the question. I wanted to. That's my experience. There's more, but I don't want to just take up all the time with that. So I'm gonna go over some of the different answers I got for this question about did you have trouble finding work, keeping work, finding work that you can enjoy or be okay with, and how much of it had to do with mental health or neurodivergence. I think for me, it had a lot, like 50% to do with mental health, 50% to do with like neurodivergent stuff, for sure. My inability to like just be okay at any job for any significant amount of time. Like I was just in internal turmoil about like the utter just disappointment with having to wake up in the morning or do this thing that I can give two shits about and found no reward in. Okay, let's see here. Let's go. First answer. Like I said, I got about 4. Some of them are pretty lengthy, which is cool. So, but let's go. Dear Angst, thus far, I've had a hard time finding a job, period. The job market is an absolute abysmal state at the moment, and something like 40% of listings have been confirmed to be false. Actually, yeah. Good point. That wasn't the case when I was younger. When I was in my 20s, like, listings, even like online, like things like Indeed and ZipRecruiter were actually useful when I was in my late 20s. Like, that stuff was still useful to some degree. Now that I'm like, well, I'm 40 now, but even when I was like 36, dude, it's just so chock full of garbage. There's just nothing. It's just a bunch of like scams and pyramid schemes and like weird, like, what do you call it? Commission-based bullshit, a bunch of part-time crap, no benefits, if you were to find one. But a lot of it's just like fake, or they'll have like a company just wants to show that like, oh look, see, we're trying to hire people, but there's like literally like not enough positions at all. Maybe there's one, maybe there's none. Right? Maybe they're like thinking there's going to be one, so they're just preparing, and then everyone's just wasting their fucking time filling out applications and submitting resumes. Yeah, I experienced a ton of that, so I feel the writer on this one. See here. With that in mind, yes, attempting to be picky about them, such that finding one which won't be miserable has been made immensely harder as a result. Eventually managed to get a job which I don't actively hate, so that's a huge improvement over the previous one. But I can see this going south eventually as well. Relatable. It's been a hell of a search, though, so I'll keep this one until it kills me. Well, yeah, that's kind of what it is, right? A couple of times, like, for me, the big switch would be, like, I don't know, company policy would change in some, like, really stupid way, or the two half-decent people that were, like, pretty competent moved on to something else, and I'm stuck with some, like, new nitwits that don't want to work or do anything. I don't want to work. I know that I must. Right? I understand that it's something I must do. But do I want to? No, I don't think most people want to work. So, but it was great when you would get stuck with people that don't want to work and won't work. So, I've seen many a turnover in my lifetime. Anytime we had a new person, any job I ever had, I just thought, you know, meat to the grinder. Like, when are they going to be gone? 2 months? A year? 6 months? Because almost every job I ever had when I worked there, like 3+ years, whatever people were there when I started, like half of them, if not more, are gone. By the time, like, you know, I stopped working. Let me see here. Next one. Dear Angst. After a few years of therapy, work has become much easier to do. I had to apply object relations theory to my relationship with my employer. Ooh, interesting. So now, having to work feels a lot less draining and scary than before. I no longer see the company as this all-seeing, judging, demanding monster. It's just a nice place to play at solving puzzles, and no longer saps my life energy. I am a software developer now. Before I solved this issue, I changed quite a few jobs and even professions, but they all used to oppress and drain me no matter how creative, glamorous, or solitary my job was. It was all hell. I fully blame the personality disorder for that, and I believe that object relations theory holds the cure for this issue. Wow, okay. I mean, it didn't hold the cure for my issue, but that was something else. That was me finding something that was like legitimately not just mind-numbing. So, though it does come with its own problems. It's yeah. Anyway. But yeah, interesting. I guess it would depend on the problem, right? Like, I guess it's because I don't view any job I work at as this all-seeing, judging, demanding monster. I see it as this like machinery that is usually incredibly inefficient because it's being run by a bunch of people that have a very often are lacking any consideration for or conscientiousness for others in the workplace outside of their own hides. Especially if you're talking about managers or people in any kind of managerial position, it's really hard to find like sincere, caring people that are conscientious in like upper management of any kind. It's hard. It's a lot harder than one would assume. I'm kidding. It's about as hard as you would assume. But in any case, yeah. And I would usually, in most jobs I had, I would usually eventually butt heads with some of the upper management because I would bring up problems at the more local level that need to be fixed, or things that, you know, I can't fix at my level, so I need them to do something about it. And when I was just faced with runarounds and excuses, I would take them to task, and that would usually be like, "Oh dear, what are you doing?" It's like, I'm just asking questions about why this hasn't been done, but it's been requested. like 6 months ago. Like literally, what are you so busy with? And if there's some other issue you're not mentioning, then please do mention it, because it's ridiculous. And you know, yeah, let's just say upward mobility was rare for me because of this reason. And I wasn't a dick or anything. I would just be like, okay, this doesn't make sense. How come we're not doing anything about it? Like, we can fix it. Wouldn't be expensive. It's like, no. That's I think people just don't like change. Cause that's more work, and that's something to worry about, and they're like really just want to like, you know, it's not bothering me, so who cares? Type of mentality, which I find abhorrent sometimes. But anyway, but yeah, so I don't know if object relations were for me, but I'm glad it did for you, person. So I imagine maybe there's some Zoids out there where something like the way they perceive their employer might be why it makes them miserable to be there. Like if they're feeling like literally like oppressed by their employer in some way or another. I've only felt like that a few times, but that was when I was younger. Now when something like that happens, it's expected. It's not really like, I just kind of expect it. I don't think it's like yeah, because it just how it be that way. Just be that way sometimes. All right, next one. What do we got? Ooh, this is the lengthy one. This is the biggie. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for the big one? All right, let's see here. Dear Angst, I have very limited job experience because I dropped out of college, then went into deep depression for years. Now, even if I choose my career path, even if I try to work well, try to find meaning and gratification, the problem is I actually don't care. I don't care about anything I do. I start with good intentions, unconsciously self-sabotage, then finally stare at the screen and think, what's the point of this anyway? The search for meaning is definitely my biggest problem right now. Socially, it's hell. Coworkers look at me as if I was a mental clinic patient released in an IT department as a social experiment. Close to the truth? Yet, anyways. They definitely classify me as weird. I know it. They know it, that I know it. And I'm like, let's pretend everything is normal. It's a nightmare. I am depressed, can't focus, lash out at people from time to time because it's so difficult to keep on a mask on stressful situations. My coworkers have no consideration for others. They can only monologue about themselves. It's morons that talk for hours about bullshit stuff. At the end of the day, I'm completely drained out. See, and this is what's interesting about like even that set of phrase, like kind of touching on what the last person had said about object relations. Like how like where's the line there, right? Where's the line where you go, okay, this is like my personality disorder, or like this is because I'm misperceiving or misattributing, or I'm letting it permeate my boundaries, or this sort of stuff. Like how much of it is that, and how much of it is like legitimate complaint about something? Is it does it become like well, I'm the minority here and I'm trying to enforce my vision of reality onto the world, so I'm mentally ill? Is that what's happening? I know a few people that believe that. I don't know. I think it's a little more nuanced than that. I think people are often incredibly inconsiderate in the workplace, and often literally just will do stuff like, oh, the next shift will handle it. I was supposed to finish it. They could finish it. They just decide not to finish it, and then just leave it to the next person. And then that person leaves it to the next person, and then eventually it gets to someone like me, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I don't like leaving it to the next person, and I'm not comfortable with that, so then I end up doing a lot more than I should. And so then I become resentful of these people. Now, is that just me and my mental health problems? Or is that a legitimate concern and complaint? And it's funny too, because when these types of complaints would be brought up to management, they wouldn't do much about it, and I have no idea why. Because when I was in kind of more management positions and people brought this stuff up to me, I would do something about it. I would have a talk with them. I'd be like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't we doing what we're supposed to? And I would suss out if they're bullshit excuses or legitimate reasons. Because you can only have so many legitimate reasons for not doing your motherfucking job. Right. So yeah. How much? Right? How can we know? That's what's so funny. Like, I often wonder, like, if you reconceptualize things so much that you essentially become like a can you like cause yourself to like tolerate essentially unfair behavior toward you, right? Like, I could be like, oh well, they must have been busy and I'm just not understanding, and I'm making it too big a deal than it is, and I'm like, even if I do have to work a little bit more, I mean, is it really that bad? Like, if I start doing that, like, at what point does that become toxic, I wonder? Right? Like, I get it. You can't just go like fucking bananas, right? You can't just be like, what the fuck? Yeah, I get that. It's not in me anyway, like 99% of the time. But sometimes people behave like calling out others at work is like verboten, like just a taboo. Even if you do it in a civil way. That's been my experience many times. Right? And it's actually gotten me, this is funny, this is like a side note. It's given me a pretty interesting skill set. I'm pretty damn good at like something like loss prevention. I'm pretty good at seeing how people exploit their jobs or do exploitive things. Or find like ways to get around the work they do, and it causes other work for others. Like, that's something like I've gotten pretty damn good at. Too bad it's not really a skill that's very much appreciated in most workplaces. In fact, it's frowned upon. It's causing conflict. You're creating waves. Everything was fine until you pointed out, you know, this error that we've been doing for 4 years that we were pretending wasn't there. It's like, what? But why? Anyway, let me continue reading this longer one. Yesterday, I was distracted and made a really big mistake. Deleted a lot of database. At this point, I would be relieved if I was fucked. I thought about quitting more than once, but my problem is always, are they being morons, or am I the problem? Can I change my schizoid adaptations to survive better in this work? Is it all that childhood trauma interfering, blurring my judgment? Or are they just morons? All of it. Maybe. It's so difficult to tell. My default thinking is always that I'm defective and need fixing to fit in the group. Anyways, I wanted to participate in Saturday stream for once. I really appreciate your YouTube channel and Discord. Makes me feel like I'm a part of the human experience after all. No problem, sir. Or ma'am. I didn't actually even look at the username. I try not to look at them just so my unconscious doesn't like slip stuff out. So I just try to like kind of skip over the username, like blind myself to it if possible. But in any case, that portion about you know, is it just me? Am I just defective? Is it just childhood trauma? I have experienced that. I went through a whole stage, it was also work related, in which I was essentially thinking like, okay, that's it. At this job, it's going to be different. I'm going to be part of the team, and I'm going to like overcome all this like negative thinking about people, and I'm going to like do this and do that, like, right? I just thought, okay, it's just something I need to like psychologically, philosophically overcome about my perspective in others, right? And so like, yeah, I would like be like, okay, it's not gonna be a mask, it's gonna be real. Watch me. I'm gonna do something different this time. And so yeah, like I tried that stuff in certain times in my life, and yeah, like the same stuff happened no matter what. So because I couldn't not notice certain things. Like my brain just couldn't look away, couldn't just ignore. I even attempted to rationalize it in some positive spin at the time, because I didn't want it to bother me. I didn't want to end up, disliking the job, and it just kept happening anyway. Right? Like I'd be like, oh, okay, look, I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I'm being like kind of upbeat and talking to people and being like really helpful and understanding. And then like the same stuff would happen, and then I would just be like, no, it's fine. I'm sure it was an accident. Don't assume it was intentional. It was not anything cynical. I'm sure it won't happen again. Happens again. I'm sure it happens again. Well, maybe if I just gently mention to them, they're going to be like really cool about it and just be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to attempt not to do that anymore. I do it. They get defensive. They complain. They try to blame it on me. Oh, maybe they were having a tough day. They're just having a rough day. I'll try again another time. Maybe they'll work on it regardless because I mentioned it. Maybe they'll think twice next time. Even if they did try to like, they got defensive, keep doing it. Maybe I'll go talk to my manager, right? There's no point me confronting them or saying anything. I'm gonna go talk to my manager, mention it to them. Manager says they'll talk to him. Nothing changes. Behavior remains the same. Well, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, at what point do you just go like, maybe they just are fucking morons sometimes, right? And I'm not even talking about like morons. When I say morons, at least in my experience at work, I'm not talking about like competency, like, oh my god, they made a mistake, what a fucking idiot, right? Like, no, it's more like, because I make mistakes, everybody makes fucking mistakes. It's this lack of consideration for the other human beings that are enduring this like wagey slave labor themselves, right? Like, we're all there. Most of us don't like it. You have a few deluded ones, right? You have upper management that's making enough money to like it, right? Maybe, right? Or whatever. So then I think to myself, well, if we're all just kind of doing this because it needs to be done, and we're all kind of like, man, I don't want to wake up in the morning and go to work. This sucks. Blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't we be considerate toward each other? We're all, within the context of that store or that factory or whatever, we're all loving, right? We're all, there should be camaraderie under that similar suffering. And also, bolstering and venting and being honest about certain things. Maybe, I'm gonna start talking about building a union. No, like unions have their own goddamn problems. It's like, it's so funny when it comes to unions, because then like you have that same like bullshit, shitty, weird social class hierarchy within a union as you would without. Wild. Bananas. Oftentimes, not every time, there are some good unions, but like oftentimes I thought unions were just like they were almost like what do you call it? It's to create like a illusion of resistance, an illusion of advocacy. It's like, oh yeah, we're fighting for you. We're gonna, like, I just imagine the union leaders and the boss of that company or those companies both smoking stogies and laughing and thinking like, all right, just give us a little bit of this. Well, that'll quiet them down. They're getting that little hand. Oh yeah, all right, cool. Well, I'll make it happen. Hey, by the way, you want to fuck my wife? It's like, that's what I picture in my mind. Winter says the work world is nuts in my mind. Everyone says they hate their jobs. Then they work 50 hours a week and make no efforts to create a lifestyle that doesn't require working 50 hours. Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to work on. I'm working on that real hard now. I would say for a lot of Zoids, though, it's probably they lack the motivation or interest or the ambition or just the volition. Because the problem is like, oh, I can work really hard to like live for myself, but then like the question always becomes, I think in a lot of Zoids' minds, like, then what? And it is true that actually does happen, even for those that succeed. It does turn into a then what? But that's because they haven't tackled a bunch of the underlying issues in any significant way, and they thought that getting out of a specific environment or getting out of a specific situation in which they are isolated, left alone, would be enough, and then somehow miraculously from the ether, meaning and purpose would appear. It's normalized to hate yourself and what you're doing. Being toxic, being toxic being a natural consequence. It's normalized to hate yourself and what you're doing. I mean, in some respects, maybe I get what you're saying there, Hayoka, but that's kind of what I mean. Like, if there's just a bunch of like miserable people working at a job that pays miserable wages, and or something of that nature, like, why would you be a dick to each other? Like, why wouldn't you just work together to be a dick to the people that are putting you in that position? You know, that's weird to me. I always found that strange. You end up creating all these weird, like, what's the word, like, it's almost like conditions of most work environments that cause you to create controlled opposition, like accidental controlled opposition that they can use to distract you from the fact that, like, they're the, like, there's these other people fucking you over in the higher echelons or whatever it is you're a part of. It's so crazy. Yeah, I don't think most like large companies would like camaraderie within the workplace that also turns into like advocacy for unfairness within the workplace. That's probably the type of camaraderie they'd be like, no, I don't want that. The employees getting together and talking about like any kind of like not cool shit the company's doing to them and the district manager's doing and beyond. I don't know about that one. No, we want you to just be, we're family. I love how companies do that. Every company says, we're a fucking family. We're a fucking family. We're a fucking family. Like, oh god, nothing makes me want to vomit more than when companies try to pretend they're families. We're family now. This is the family. It's funny too if you're not very close to your family, or say you grew up in a really shitty household. You're like, why would I want to be? I don't want you to be my family. Are you gonna hit me like dad? My dad didn't hit me. I'm just saying. Are you gonna beat me? Are you hitting me with the belt? Starbucks, whatever. Anyway, let me see here. It's a narcissistic trait. Feeling it above the other person is all that counts, even if it's just for a brief one. But that's the thing, Hayoka. If that was a narcissistic trait, that I think that's a lot of fucking people. So maybe maybe most people have a plethora of these traits. Maybe these are just normal traits. Maybe they're not narcissistic traits. They're just normal human traits. There's like stuff that like even my own psych has told me that it's pretty normal for people to do this. Then I just go like, okay, so it's not narcissistic. It's just normal. It's just common. Like, okay, that's cool. I live garden when you hear your fam. I live garden when you hear your family. Dude, I hate that kind of shit, dude. I am a customer. I am not your fucking family. I am an employee. We are not family. We are not, you know, I love it when they don't, like, one of my favorite things that companies do now, I can't stand it. Instead of saying that someone gets fired, or that person got fired, or they got sacked, if you're British, they say, oh, that person got offboarded. That's very common, especially in like this Silicon Valley kind of industry stuff. Like offboarded. Oh, they've been offboarded. They've been offboarded. What the fuck? Just say fired. Canned. Told them to go kick rocks. What is this shit? Offboarded. Are we on a boat? Like, you know? But whatever. It's silly. It's really silly. And by the way, future reference. Remember, guys, if you ever want to answer the question of the week, I usually put it up on Wednesdays. I try to always put it up on Wednesdays. Maybe I should try doing it on Tuesday, but I usually need a few days to come up with something that I want to talk about. And you can answer it just like these people did in the Deeper Inks channel. If you're a schizoid, you have to be in the schizoid portion, sir. If you're not, then you could always participate in the chat and put it on there. But I'm mostly looking for kind of schizoid perspectives on some of these matters. It gives me, it educates me on varying life experiences and stuff, and angles in which this could be taken. Anyway, let's go. Last one for today. As far as you know, but if there was 5 or 6, you know, maybe I'd have more to read, you motherfuckers. But just please submit if you can. Let's see here. Dear Angst, yeah, jobs are pretty much intolerable. I used to work in childcare, and in order to be competent in the position, I had to put so much effort into masking and repressing anxiety that most of my hair fell out in patches. I loved the job, and the kids were easy. It was just the staff and the parents that were difficult. I haven't worked for the last 4 years, other than a brief period where it was mandatory to keep receiving social services. I'm studying now, so I've at least got something to say when people ask me what I'm doing. But the only plan I really have is to resolve or reduce enough of the negative systems and anxiety, and then try to work again from a new mental starting place. Maybe sometime next year. Good luck. I hope that's accomplished. I really do. If I hadn't put so much direct effort into recovery and was still stuck where I was 6 or 7 years ago, I would have absolutely no clue how to ever manage work. I don't know how any Zoids manage it for more than a few years without going insane. Yeah, feel you on that one. It just depends on like the type of environment you're dealing with, right? Like I can imagine childcare would be like, fuck, because it wouldn't be the kids. The kids might be easier to deal with, right? I know this sounds really weird, and I'm not comparing like human children to dogs. If somebody finds that offensive, I don't think it's that offensive. But it's children are similar to like animals, are because they're like very much like there's a lot of sincerity there, especially little kids. They're gonna tell you this hurts. I don't like that. That's stinky. I don't like the way that tastes. Like, you know, just like a dog, if you give them something that they don't like, they're gonna be like, bleh. You know, kids gonna do the same thing. Yucky. You know, it's like they're not gonna chew on it and be like, no, it's good. You're great. It's like, no, they're gonna be like, eh. They're gonna be like, I'm mad. He took my toy. They're not gonna do. They don't do like passive aggressive shit. Weird, like, you know, they're just kids. Just I have like a 4-year-old myself. I love her to death because she like, you know, like I'll just hairless puppies that can talk. Like that, like I'll be like, oh yeah, like the other day I was sitting with her, and she's just like, this was more like a funny thing. She was like, lunch is my favorite. And I looked at her and I'm like, what? And she's like, lunch is my favorite. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean? Like, why is lunch your favorite? And then she looked at me like puzzled, right? She looked at me like, don't you know? She's like, because I like eating. I was like, well, oh, yeah. I think when she said lunch, I think she was just talking about meals in general. She's like, eating, it's like essentially she was saying eating is my favorite in her mind, right? So when she said lunch is my favorite, like she was puzzled by like, why would you ask why? Because eating is good. I like eating. Even Sam Backman says that there's something inherently narcissistic about trying to make friends. Nothing wrong with having them or making friends, but doing things to make friends is basically weird. For me, yeah, I agree. Actively doing things to make friends, fucking alien concept to me. Alien concept. Like all the friends I've made now, like are like 90% online. But all the friends I've made, it's just circumstantial. We talked about similar things. We had conversations that were cool. Eventually, organically, we discovered we had a mutual, maybe sometimes ethical or philosophical views. We liked the conversations we had back and forth on various topics. We had, for my closer friends, it would be like we had similar experiences in life that maybe others would have difficulty understanding, similar types of sensitivities or empathies towards certain things, right? And then that would establish organically like a, but that's something I can do now, especially since I found more Zoids. So it's a lot easier to do that kind of thing with them. No expectations, not as many interpersonal expectations about like, why haven't we hung out for such a long time? I guess we're not friends anymore. Like anyway, oh, by the way, recommendation, big recommendation. So my buddy Mile, a while back, they got me like some indie games that they liked, or some games that they liked. And they're like, hey, they were like on sale, and so they got me a few, and I was like, oh, cool, that's nice. And one of those games was Buddy Simulator 1984. Big recommend. Because essentially, you play as a user that's booting up some old computer that has some old-ass game on it, or whatever it's supposed to be. Essentially, it's like this like AI kind of thing, and or chatbot kind of old. I don't know what exactly, but the point is like you get to experience this like bot that talks to you and gets really like weird and needy, and like really insecure, and like you become like an extension of their insecurity as you play through the game, and it's really interesting. It's kind of, I'll be honest, as like a Zoid, that game was a little engulfing. When I was like making jokes and stuff, but some of the stuff they were saying and doing, I was just like, this is getting kind of close to home, just because like I dealt with like people like this that do stuff like this. So it was like that game was an experience, especially if you play nice through the whole game. It's like, it's not that bad, right? It's still overwhelming, but if you try to be like mean to them, like they just get so needy and weird, and like that's not what friends do. Friends are this and friends are that, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, it's like a kind of horror game, honestly. Like, I think that was the most horror part about Buddy Simulator in 1984. Not the spooky stuff or like the one or two jump scares. It was like this kind of like the engulfing personality that the bot had in the game that you're interacting with. Like, and then like they would do this stuff where they would, that, you guys know what I'm talking about, possibly. That kind of thing where your neurodivergent ass like doesn't pick up on a certain like nuance in their tone, or a certain specific social cue, or like a way they say stuff, and then you're like, everything's cool, right? And they're like, yeah, everything's great. You're like, oh, cool. Tell me you've never experienced that at least once. You might have learned later, but you're like, oh, well, they said everything's cool. That's good. And it's like, but you didn't pick up on the, yeah, everything's cool. Like, that shit. It's weird. And people don't do that weird tonality stuff, or like some of that passive aggressive shit. They don't even do it intentionally. It's not like a planned out scheme, right? I used to think that. I used to actually think that some of that stuff was like something they thought out ahead of time. Most of the time, it's just something they're just doing it. It's just intuitive. Like, somebody just going, yeah, that's really cool. I'm really glad you're hanging out with that person. And you're like, oh, thanks for being supportive. And then, like, inside they're just seething, and you're like, we're good, right? Yeah. What the fuck, man? But the character in Buddy Simulator gives off those vibes sometimes, especially when you don't do what they say. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting because like it's this weird dynamic of like they're getting like upset with you, but no, I'm not upset. We're friends. Friends don't get upset with each other. Kind of like vibe. It's like, hey, are you upset? No, friends don't get upset with each other. Why would you think I'm upset? I'm never upset with you. I'm never upset with you. Why would you say I'm upset? It's like, ugh, right? That shit gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, I can't. That caused me so many fucking problems in my life. They're unconscious and unaware, and even if they were, they would deny it when confronted. No idea what to do with these people. Really, that's a lot of people, Hayoko. That's like most people. They do stuff like that. It takes them like usually. I think for the average person, like they have to be like a lot older before they like start coming to terms or figuring that shit out. If they're not like actively seeking like self-help or like. Buddy Simulator is like it's not really an AI bot, it's a game, it's a video game, so like it's like pretending to be, but the way so it's linear, except for there's like 4 endings technically, but no matter what ending you get, you still kind of like as a Zoid, you still kind of feel like I got all the achievements on it, right? So I got the good ending, the neutral ending, the bad ending, and the like the secret ending. And all of them made me just go like every single one. None of them were happy to me. They were all just depressing or like uncomfortable. Just like, no. But I liked it a lot. It was a great game because of that reason. Like it had an actual impact on me as I was playing it. Like especially at like the endings like there was one ending, I'll tell you right now, you want to at least experience the bad ending once. You want to do the bad ending for sure. Maybe if you just want to play through it twice, do the good ending, do the bad ending. I would say those are like the most interesting endings, hands down. The neutral ending's pretty interesting as well, but the bad and the good, especially the bad, that one's woo. Anyway, yeah, man, it's 99% of people. It's a fucking mental asylum out there. You know what? What's funny is it might be a mental asylum out there, but in my opinion. It's not like everyone's like individual fault. Like oftentimes people like so it'd be like people are crazy, right? Oh my god, I stay away from people because they're crazy. They're so emotional and crazy. And like I try to stick my schizo ass, and like I said, like for those that don't know, I'm ADHD and I have a diagnosed schizoid personality, but I'm a recovering person. I'm a recovering schizoid, I guess. In many ways, but I consider myself to be something called that I call the schizo spectrum, which is like the other side of the autistic coin, where all my thinking is usually very meta, very loose associative, but I have like really under control, but like my thinking is very referential and whatever. Anyway, so anyway, what was I saying? Forgot what I was saying. Shit. Somebody remind me. I was saying something and then I got off on that tangent. Oh yeah, I got it. So I always think like I used to think that like in my 20s, probably earlier, but then like I grew out of it pretty quick because then I just started like metaing out when it came to like people, and I just started like getting angry, more angry and stuff at like institutions, historical decisions, social engineering. Like large swaths of like power vacuums that created like new things that like essentially like started like folding and molding people into certain directions. And then the one thing that always bothered me about just like even something like sociology or psychology or whatever, it was always like this, like there was a certain set of human behaviors that would almost be like presented like these naturalistic fallacies in my mind. It would be like, this is just the human condition. It's like, really, no? Does it have to be? Does that have to be the human condition in that way every time? Is there anything we do about it? Because it sure as shit looks like they did something about it over time. People that were interested, individual choice makers with, not coming up with a conspiracy. I'm saying like literally individuals that were just opportunistic and exploitive over the course of many, many millennia and centuries. You know, just kind of shaped human beings to be less and less metacognitive. But the human condition, like this, it feels like a naturalistic fallacy to me, almost. Like, oh, humans are just evolved that way. They're just always going to be that way. They're always going to act this way. This is something you can't take out of the humans. Like, I don't know about that one. I'm a big fan of education. And I just think that humans aren't being taught a lot of really important shit about existence that they should be teaching at like a public school level. That shit drives me crazy. You got ADD SPD? So, homie? La raza! I don't say stuff like that. Anyway. But yeah. Yeah, if we live in a simulation, like my dream would be that like all the humans get together and they're like, we're gonna break out of the simulation. It's like, what if it destroys us all? We shouldn't have been born to begin with. You know? We break out or I'll die. Live or let die. Fight! And I've always had that mentality. I'm like, aren't we all just suffering and feeling like shit all the time? Except for like a handful of people that actually feel really good all the time. Which, you know, like those people are probably like either really, really lucky or really, really lack empathy, and they're just like in positions of privilege and like, or something of that nature. Like, I can't imagine being in this world as it exists, and then just being like, I'm so happy with life. Life's just so wonderful, so beautiful. It's like, I get it. I get like finding meaning and purpose, and I'm not saying, oh, just be a doomer, oh, you know, but like to be like, life's so beautiful, everything's so good in life. It's like, you're a dangerous person. I do not trust you. That's my thought on that. Anybody that tries to convince me that like life is ultimately mostly a happy thing, like they're not even willing to go like 50-50 with me. They're saying it's like 70-30, and they're saying 775 a wonderful thing. I'd be like, not as it stands, sir. Are you talking about as it stands, or what it could potentially become? Because as it stands, big disagree. Samsara. But anyway. So, does anyone in chat have any job-related experiences that they would like to communicate with me, or anything of that nature? If you can't tell, I'm extra wired today. I have no idea why. I was extremely tired earlier. Now I'm just not entirely sure. I haven't been that depressed today, so that's probably good. The world is unfair because it's not real. I think it's unfair because it is real. Let's see here. Modern science denies the existence of teachings. that are unchanged for thousands of years. They pathologize everything they don't know and understand. Yeah. I mean, I could vibe with some of that, right? I am a person that likes to merge science as well as faith in the impossible. But then that's kind of more schizoid side of me. Can't just do concrete. Love my abstract. If I didn't keep it in check, I'd just be floating into the abstract, like 70% of the time. So, yep. Life is fair, but the world is not. I would say existence in and of itself is, if you're talking about like by like human standard, it's pretty unfair, or by any kind of like ethical standard that's like human created ethical standards. Like I would say existing is pretty unfair in many ways. I mean, I don't know about fair. It depends on how you define fair, I guess. I haven't seen it in years. It was okay. I've seen a lot of weird movies because I like weird films. So, but like, I don't know. Once you become like, once you're like sincerely like in a, I don't like to say optimistic, but productive nihilist like me. Like, there isn't too many movies or things that can make me go like, that just blew my mind, man. Like, you know, there's too much. There's been a few, but I've watched a lot of strange films. Like I used to have a lot of existential dread. In my 20s, I was just racked with it. I'm like talking panic attacks like every other day. Existential dread was life. Not so much anymore. I'm like that. Have you seen that meme with the Don't get me wrong. I'm still like low grade depression like almost all the time. But I think everyone should be. my philosophy is that as the world as it currently stands, everyone should be suffering from at least a low grade depression during most years in their life. And if you're not, then you found some really good cope. I'm not saying deep depression and like you become crippled, really depressed, and you can't get anything done. But I think everyone should be at least at like low depression level in most instances, with occasional ups. You know, sick shit. Nah, I don't think I was ever into quote unquote sick shit. Hold on, little one's here. 1 second. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I would maim and murder anyone that would ever hurt my child without any remorse. She's a cute and a wonderful little thing. Let's see here. What do we got? Nothing in chat. Love it. The chat just ends up always having just conversations with each other about like some random like either philosophical, ethical, political thing. pretty funny. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. In any case, well, I hope you guys got something out of this. I don't know if you did. If you didn't, then I'm not sorry. But thanks for sticking around. And also, if you want to support the streams, watch the videos. I have like 2 videos with 2 interviews with 2 Zoids, so check that out. They're in the main whatever YouTube thing. Check them out if you haven't. I will have another video out that's going to be pretty interesting, a little goofy but fun. And if anyone's interested, that's like a schizoid out there. If anyone's interested in doing an interview with me where I just ask you questions and we shoot the shit a little bit, and I record it and I put it out. You could do it without the camera on. You could do it with your face. You could wear a mask. You could, if you want to get one of those cool, like, trade my voice, like, whatever, some shit like it's a fucking true crime case. I don't care. I could give 2 shits. How you want to do it. You want to use a VTuber avatar. I don't care. Whatever you want. But I would love to interview more Zoids out there. I have questions about your experiences, about your perspective on this. Some of the questions could be considered a little heavy, but no one has to answer anything they don't want to. And I will not put your name out there unless you decide to put your name out there. Whatever. And I won't ask for your real name or any information like that. It'll literally just be over Zoom. I send you the link. I ask you the questions. I record it over an hour, and then that's it. That's literally it. And I think it's actually really useful to hear Zoids talk about their experiences, because then you can see some of the stuff that crosses over, overlaps, certain experiences, and it also it creates like a bigger plethora of experiences that other people that are out there that might have a more closer lived experience but similar symptoms or issues as that person or difficulties, but coming from like a certain perspective. It's good to have somebody that you can go like, that's actually closer to my experience. It's not in the playlist. It's like well, actually, yeah, there is a playlist, but it has a bunch of old interviews, because I had a bunch of old ones. They were really not the best quality on my side, as far as the questions and everything go. That's before I studied a lot more and really put my nose to the ground, whatever. But the last 2 are in the homepage. You'll see them. It just says the Return of Schizoid Quest and Schizoid Quest. So I think it's Return of Schizoid Quest, the conscientious one, and Schizoid Quest, the Night Watchman, or the Watchman. Watch those 2; those are cool. And there's going to be another one. So, but anyway, if you want to support me, Patreon. That's always really helpful. I am going to eBay. Yes, I can use the monies. I can use the money, honey. Because inflation is a bitch, and living in California is awful. Also, it helps me pay for like little bills and things associated with other stuff like that I'm doing, like trying to like build a fucking nonprofit type deal, waiting for them to give me that tax exemption. It just costs a big chunk of money to hopefully do, and then eventually can you imagine that? Can you imagine me running like fucking charity events? I'm gonna have to like find somebody to be like the face for me for that stuff, man. I don't think I'd be very good at like be like, welcome to the charity, everyone. Just a bunch of old boomers be like, empty your pockets, please. You're gonna be giving us your money, and it's gonna be tax deductible. Now get the fuck out. Like, I need somebody that's more like, you know, they can do the whole like corpo. I can do it, but it's not my natural habitat. I like to be more off the cuff. But in any case, working on that. So any money goes toward that, and like stupid little things that are helpful to my mental health, like paying for a $4 indie game that keeps me distracted in the evening. instead of cowering, being in a fetal position, thinking about all the pressure I'm under. So that helps too. All right, guys. Peace out, and as usual, when day is dark, always remember happy day. I'm a broke ass bitch, but I'm interested in that interview. Fuck off! Okay. I'm gonna make a Patreon exclusive. No, I don't give a shit, dude. I really don't. You watch what you watch. If it helps people, then that's what matters. Helps the Zoids. Ain't nobody out there fucking trying to help us, so whatever. Maybe it'll inspire some of you to do the same. I fucking hate you after research. Don't you ever say that shit to me ever again. I will fucking ban you. Worker solidarity sounds like a common idea is my grandpa who did in solidarity. He dug coal every day until he got black lung. How am I supposed to know if I can't even talk next week? Oh, I don't know. You could just like set it up, and then if you change your mind, just try to tell me like two days ahead of time, or at least, you know, or like the day before. Try to tell me the day before that you're like, never mind, I'm scared. And like I'd be like, all right, cool. Do you want to like screen check or? Trust me, I've had people back out of stuff. I'm just like, it's the nature of the beast, you know. All right, guys, but as usual, when day is dark, always remember, happy day.